Hello, it's me, Laura. Yeah, I've got a couple of things to talk about. I was thinking earlier on, well, I had this chain of thought that led me to thinking about me and my twin sister being twins, identical twins. And I was thinking at what point, after the sperm had fertilised the egg, at what point did it split in half? Well, probably immediately. My mum's egg was an X, my dad's sperm, the head, was the Y. As soon as after fertilisation, the tail comes away from the head, doesn't it? So it must have split immediately. Not in half, though. Like any cell, any fertilised egg, it splits and then it goes from 2 to 4, 8, 16, etc. But when did egg and sperm, I'll call it ball of cells, how many cells was it? 2, 4, 8, 16, etc. When did it split? At what moment? It could have been, I think it could have been at any time really, before we were identifiable as fetuses. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think my sister might know. I could Google it, but I'm too lazy. It's just easier just to phone her up. She's like a walking encyclopedia. Anyway, yeah, I was thinking that, and then I thought, she came out first. Yeah, she weighed a little bit more than me. I was £3, and she was £3 and 2 or 3 ounces. So just a little bit, tiny amount heavier than me. And she came out head first with a Hollywood smile like this. She's got a Hollywood smile, you say. Well, she used to anyway. So that's probably how she was born. I definitely head first. I was born, and I've talked about it before. Yeah, the back side, the bottom, my bottom made its appearance. They weren't expecting another child at all. My mum knew though. She kept saying, "No, I know I'm having twins," and the doctors, midwives, etc., said, "No, you're not." But she was right. I said, "Oh, there's a bottom. There's a bottom." Someone said, "Are you sure it's not a face?" It was my bottom. So it's a breech birth, really difficult. And it must have been really painful for my mother because she passed out. Unfortunately, she didn't get to hold me because as soon as we were born, we were whisked away into an ambulance to the nearest hospital that had a care special care baby unit, or is it special baby care unit, something like that. And we were put in incubators. I don't think we were put in one incubator. No, I don't know. Probably two. Yeah, two. I was put in one, she was put in one. Yeah. It's making some weird noises. It's putting me off a little bit from making this video. Yeah, and in those days, you had to stay in hospital for 10 days after giving birth. It's normal. I think maybe it was your first delivery, second delivery, maybe not as long as 10 days. I don't know. I can't remember. I wasn't alive then in the 60s and that. I was alive, but I had my first child in the 80s anyway, so I'll get back to the story. Yeah. Yeah, can you stop making that noise? He's got earphones on, he can't hear me. It's like a yawning noise. Really loud. Really loud. What was I going to talk about? Yeah, she had pre-eclampsia, and in those days they called it toxemia. She didn't really know much about it. and I had it as well, and I didn't know much about it either. This is in 1987. I was pregnant. Well, my son was born in 88, so it was in 1988, yeah. Every time I went for a checkup, which was about once, well, it varied. It varied. The closer you got to giving birth, the more appointments you had. But at one appointment, they noticed, I think, protein in my urine, which is a sign, I think it was protein, and they noticed my ankles were swollen. It was a big giveaway. They said, you got to go in hospital now, today. I said, oh, well, I'm still 2 weeks off from giving birth. And they said, no, you got to come in hospital now. So I was taken by ambulance to the local hospital and put in bed, just put in a hospital nightgown and put into bed. They gave me a rough idea. They said, you got pre-eclampsia, and we need to get this baby out as soon as possible, basically. I said, all right then. And what's it? Yeah, there was all sorts of women in there for various reasons, but most of us were in there because we had the same condition called pre-eclampsia. If it turns into eclampsia, well, you haven't got much. No, you die basically. I didn't realise at the time how serious it was. And I used to laugh in the morning when I saw my reflection in the mirror. I mean, I know I've got small eyes, but they were complete slits. I couldn't see my eyeballs at all, but I could see. My face was like a balloon. Everything was puffy. I was just puffed up all over. And there was this big room, and it had great big containers, see-through, like bottles. You know the water bottles you drink out of, the bluish see-through colour. They were like that, but massive, massive, and yeah, huge. And we had to fill it up. The ladies with preeclampsia had to do that wee in a jug, and then walk from the toilet to that room, and we had a name. Every big container had a name on it, and mine was my name, obviously, Laura, and probably my surname as well. And I'd have to pour the urine from the jug into this big canister. Yeah, canister. And we didn't have to take note of it. Someone came round every night and took a note of it, how much urine was in each canister, and then they emptied it. I don't know how they did it, but they did. But I noticed that mine was always the most urine. I'm really proud of it. I mean, some people had like that, oh, that's not much. I thought, in 6 days' time, if they kept all that urine, which she didn't, if they kept it, that'd probably be enough to fill up the average, if a person's swimming pool, some, not a big swimming pool in a sports club or whatever you call it, local swimming baths or whatever. I'm talking about someone who's got a swimming pool in their garden. I thought in about 5 or 6 days' time, there'll be enough urine in that. Well, they weren't connecting it, but if they were, be enough to fill a swimming pool. But who would want to swim? No one. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was one big joke until they gave me this pessary. Like this pessary was internal. They had to do it. They had to put it inside me. I said, "What's that for?" They said, "That's to bring on labour." This is this is a week after I'd been admitted into the what was it called? Prenatal ward, something like that. Prenatal ward. And the women were lovely, by the way, so friendly. And we all used to talk a lot, it's fun. Um, but we did mainly bed rest. We didn't walk around much. We had to rest in bed, especially the ones with, well, all of us really. And yeah, it was nice. I really relaxed in there. Read my women's magazines that my then partner used to bring up to me. Yeah, it was relaxing. And they looked after us well. They came round like loads of times to do a blood pressure, take a blood pressure. Then at night we're given like Horlicks to drink. Very relaxing. And wasn't frightened at all really. I was a bit apprehensive about giving birth, because that was my first time. I was a bit apprehensive about the pain. Pain is what every woman fears, isn't it? Or something going wrong, obviously. Yeah, that's normal. And there was a couple of women that came in to the unit that had already had children, and we'd ask them, "What was it like? What was it like? What's it like giving birth? And I said, "Don't worry, you soon forget about the pain." And yeah, they gave me this pessary to put me into labour, and that was a week before I actually did give birth. So this pessary did put me into labour. I had pains, and they were terrible. Really, really bad. Really, really, really bad. I had to keep having a bath to ease the pain because that was the only thing that helped. And people rubbing my back, my partner, my ex-partner, well, then partner, and the nurses rubbing my back, but it was awful. The pain was horrendous. And then it just gradually just wore off. The pain wore off, and the labour stopped. So they said, we'll try it again in another week. And then they tried again a week later. And I think my waters broke, did they? No, there was something that indicated that I was in labour. So yeah, and it was. I told them that I wanted to have an epidural. Yeah, well, they wanted me to have an epidural anyway. I had to have an epidural, but I'm pleased I did have it because it numbed me from the waist down, so I didn't feel any pain at all. So that was good. But they advised me to have an epidural. I don't know why, I can't remember. But it was good because I didn't feel anything. So I was just lying there. He gave me some earphones to listen to some nice music. I slept on and off. It did go on for oh, about 10 to 12 hours or something like that. I don't know. It went on for quite a long time, the labour. And then the epidural started to wear off. I think they topped it up. Then it started to wear off again. And then it was time for me to give birth, and it was difficult. I didn't really remember feeling any pain, but the actual trying to squeeze my son out was difficult. And I got tired very easily. I mean, my legs are probably all flabby and floppy, not just because of the fluid retention, but the just exhaustion basically. And was having a hard time pushing my son out, so they had to use forceps. And they said if this doesn't work, you'll have to have a cesarean, and that worried me a bit. So I really did give a good big push, and out he popped. No, he didn't fly. He didn't fly out like some. Yeah, some babies just fly out, don't they? No, it wasn't like that. It just emerged sedately out of my uh, womb, just like an angel. And they wrapped him in a towel. They always wrap them in a hospital towel, don't they? And it says property of the NHS or something on it. But he looked lovely. He looked like a baked bean, actually. His face was like a baked bean. He was perfect. There's no wrinkles on him or anything. He looked like a perfect baked bean. He was gorgeous. Honestly, to me, and everyone admired him, of course. So, what a beautiful baby, what a beautiful baby. He was £6, 15.5 ounces, something like that. Exact weight of my daughter. Exact weight. And he was born a week early. Yeah, but he was perfect. He got 10 out of 10 because they test them when they're like newborns. Everything's tested, and you get a tick for that. You get marks out of 10. He got 10 out of 10, and he had a good colour. Everything about him was perfect. Perfect baby. And I was really proud to give birth to my son Jonathan. Jonathan Robert. Yeah, that's what I called him, middle name. It was after his dad's grandfather, but yeah, his dad's grandfather. I always liked that name, Robert, and it suited him, Jonathan. But he doesn't go by that name now. He calls himself Johnny. I prefer to call him Jonathan. That means gift from God. And unfortunately, we don't have much contact anymore. I think I've moaned about him before, but that doesn't mean I don't love him, because I do. And yeah, it was lovely. It was a hard time after that with all the loss of the fluid from my body. It all came out of my feet, believe it or not. Yeah, it didn't come out from my armpits, anywhere on my body. That was maybe I was sweating. I can't remember, but most of the fluid that I'd gained was coming out of my feet, and my slippers. Well, they were unusable. They were unwearable because if I twisted them, it was just full of fluid, completely wet. And that went on for about 3 days, I think, the fluid loss. And then I looked more or less back to normal. Just thin and worn out. It was a tough time. Labour's very gruelling. Having a baby, it does a lot to your body. And I had to sit in this wooden chair every 3 hours to breastfeed. And that was torture. Yeah, sheer torture. I didn't want to do it. But they more or less forced me into it, I think. And he didn't get a lot of rest. There was doctors. I mean, it was different then to when I had my daughter 7 years later. Completely different. When I had my son, and it's the same hospital, there were people coming in all the time, different nurses with different uniforms on. Where do they come from? Um, Nurses, cleaners, doctors, all sorts of people. Yeah, vacuuming while you're trying to sleep. Get up now, it's time to feed the baby. And a couple of nights I couldn't take it anymore. I said, put the baby in the nursery, put my son in the nursery, I need to sleep. Because I started hallucinating, didn't I? Lack of sleep, exhaustion. I started to have nightmares and seeing things, and I couldn't take it anymore. I thought, I'm going to end up in the mental hospital if this doesn't change. Because it was too much for me. It was ridiculous. It was over the top. And I'll come and see how baby is bathed and come and do that. It was just one thing after another. People coming in with crocheted clothes, trying to sell them. visitors. And I remember my parents coming to see me, my mum and dad, and I started crying. It was very emotional. I was in there for 10 days. It was very emotional. And I started crying, and my dad said, "Why are you crying? You just had a baby." Well, it's a very emotional time, isn't it? Especially when it's your first baby. You know, and I'd been in hospital 2 weeks before I'd had him. So, and then 10 days with these, like, not proper sleeps, nightmares, seeing things. You know, it was tough. It was awful. But it was nice because I had my little son with me. And I was excited to take him home. And things were a little bit not too good for a few days until I stopped stopped breastfeeding. That didn't work out for me. I got flat, what you call nipples. If you're allowed to use that word on YouTube, they're flat. And I couldn't feed him. It was torture. Milk was going everywhere all day long, half naked, milk everywhere. It just wasn't working out. And I was on the verge of insanity. A friend told me, just move on to the bottle and don't feel guilty about it. Not everyone can breastfeed. And that's when things started to look better for me and my son, when I turned to the bottle. Alright then, I'm going to end this video. Be nice if my son gets to watch this video, because I do miss him, and I do love him. And I vote, I devote, I'm going to, what's it, devote? No. Dedicate, that's it. Sorry, I'm going to dedicate this video to my son. Alright then, bye.